Heather in the Wind. Again, these are stories that I put up on my Patreon for free, partly to advertise the Young Reader series that I sell on Amazon. So this covers some characters that are in the Maidens of Zombie Kingdom book of trilogy, young adult fantasy trilogy. Kind of mixes a little bit of light horror with high fantasy, sword and sorcery fantasy. And we're following one of the characters that got lost out in the woods and is being chased by evil magic. So this was written yesterday. We'll give it an edit. There'll be another edit off screen at some point, and then that'll be it. We'll do a final draft reading at some point in the future. So this is Heather in the Wind, a short story for young readers set in the universe of Maidens of Zombie Kingdom. She thought things would be better in the light, but dawn brought no relief from the dark magic that chased her through the long night. There was no village ahead. The maps had lied to her, or the plague of the ghouls that had shattered the kingdom, and much of the larger world had taken this place as well. There was no sign of a larger village, though, unless it had been generations ago. Trees had grown back thick and old along the roadway. Foundations, wells, and fences were utterly lost, had they ever been there before. Hey, Armand, I'm here. I made it. Carry on. Thank you, sir. I will continue just because you said so. But I am glad you're here. I hope you had a good nap. Only one shelter remained. It was too large for a single family shack, and too small for a village gathering house. Maybe a store, but probably not. Maybe a shrine, but if it was, the god went unworshipped now. The roof sagged, the logs of the walls gaped. The place was dark and empty. Even the spiders had vacated their ancient webs long ago. Heather accepted the place as shelter, though, collapsing to her side on the sour dirt floor. Collapsing on her side to the sour dirt floor, she had no other plan beyond that fall. Darkness would come again, and this would be no protection from whatever evil had her scent. A splitting table had been pushed into one dark corner. Broken crockery decorated the edges of the wall. Someone had carved runes in a language unknown to her, and this bothered her a great deal. Voices carried on the wind. Heather had no energy left to fight, but she still crawled up to her knees and drew her sword to greet whatever it might be. Let me grab a drink of water real quick. Children's laughter drifted through the remains of the door that would no longer close tight. That should have been comforting. All right, let's say, I'm not being clear here. The sound of young laughter should have been comforting in the mortal world. Armies and bandits did not travel with children. If they ever did, they certainly were never laughing. But Heather had seen all sorts of unnatural business since becoming a knight. Got some missing words here. That happens when I write on stream especially. And dark spirits were deceptive. Okay, I'm going to make a comma there because we kind of have an idea break there. And dark spirits were deceptive, manipulative, and full of guile. So she trusted that high, shrill laughter not one bit. The building shifted and rattled. It could have been the wind, were any blowing. Those suspicious runes pulsed and lit up with a dull light. She braced herself for the place to collapse in on top of her before she could gain her feet and exit. She was surprised to see the room swelling outward from the inside instead of falling. The cobwebs faded as the corners of the room sharpened back into clean lines. The roof lost its sag, and a few support beams grew into the missing slots. The table walked out toward her. Heather stood and held her sword at the ready to slay this table monster if she could. The furniture seemed to take the warning and bypassed her to get back into place. The broken crockery was gone from a now swept and fresh floor. In its place, I'm going to put a comma there after the preposition. In its place, cooking smells that tempted her empty stomach wafted through the new space. She trusted those smells less than the children's laughter. Sampling magic stew was a good way to be poisoned by a witch, based on the stories Heather knew from childhood. All right. Transparent figures moved about. Moved about in the shifting place, in the shifting light of the place, and they exited through the repaired door, leaving Heather alone with the cooking. She staggered toward the door and forced it open with her forearm. She had no intention of being trapped in this magic place as it transported her somewhere else. As she emerged from the strange cabin, she found the village the maps had promised. The trees had retreated, green grasses replaced the thick bed of leaves that marked seasons upon seasons of old-growth forest, and there were all those laughing children running around and between the adults preparing an outdoor meal among the decorations for some sort of lively, I don't know what I was trying to spell there, lively festival. Heather spied a road that corresponded roughly to the one she had followed in here, but she did not trust that it would take her back out to any world she recognized. "Who are you?" she demanded, and how am I here? I need to put a comma there, or a question mark there as well. A few people glanced at her, but returned to their tasks as if her presence and her outbursts were nothing all that special. One large man wearing an apron, need to put an N on the end of that, took his time, wiping off his hands before he approached. He tapped a woman on the shoulder, and she put down a tray to follow him up the path toward the cabin and Heather. Let's say the newly restored cabin and Heather. She saw movement to her side and spun as she retreated a few steps along the front of the structure away from the open door. The men glanced at the point of her sword, but then entered the building as if they had better things to do than deal with her. The couple from the festival setup arrived, but stayed outside the range of her blade. He said, "Allow me to introduce myself. I don't care what your names are. How did you bring me here?" The man and the woman exchanged a look that seemed heavy with meaning, and I need to be specific here. The woman spoke next. "I'm sorry you were frightened. This is necessary for our safety. I demand to be returned to my world." "This isn't another world," the man said. "Not exactly. More like a pocket within the world we all share." "Then I want out of your pocket," she said. "We will show you the way," the woman said, "but you should know there are dark forces just outside this safe place. We can sense them. They are close. This time of year is always dangerous, but the dark spirits are more active than usual. We cannot risk discovery. You would do well not to risk keeping me around." "Are the dead monsters still out there?" A boy asked. The man turned and waved a hand as if shooing away bugs or some house pet. "Not now. Go play, son." "Do you speak of the ghouls?" Heather asked. The couple, the intruding boy, and even one of the men from the cabin stuck his head out to hear this. The man in the apron, who had not been allowed to introduce himself, said, "You were out there with the dead who no longer slept?" That threat is over in my world," Heather said. The woman let out a sigh. The boy raised his hands and cheered. It was the man who held up his halting hands. "Everyone, calm down. How do you know for sure that threat is over?" She sized up the man. She didn't trust his reaction to the other's celebration. I'm a knight in the Order of Royal Daughters. I serve the one true king of Valahark. And his sister, Princess Darn. No, they're not his sister. And she would be an aunt. I'm forgetting who my characters are in that book. And his aunt, Princess Darn. I was part of the army that defeated the evil magic behind the ghouls. They are gone. But something else I could not see chased me through the woods all night. Now I'm lost in this place and I need to go back to return to my people. Silence followed. The woman finally broke it. The haunts of the woods are always there. Let's say they preceded the monsters from the grave you call the ghouls. All right. Let me reread that sentence and make sure it makes sense. The haunts of the woods are always there. They preceded... Okay, I'm going to make that a period in a new sentence. They preceded the monsters from the grave you call the ghouls, but this is the festival to renew the wards around our village and protect us from them. We sometimes use seers to view the world outside the pocket. We saw the ones you call ghouls. We saw many fall to them. The world is dangerous, and that's why we must protect ourselves. The world is... All right, let's say the world is full of many dangers, and that's why we must protect ourselves. The world is dangerous indeed, Heather said, and that's why I must return to protect everyone outside of here. More people seemed to be gathering, and Heather was starting to feel trapped. The woman said, you should eat and rest. Even if you plan to return to the realm of the haunts, you'll be no match for them in your current condition. The man said, you're no match for them anyway, and they will have you if you leave. There is no if about this. Time moves differently. Wait, this is not right. There is no if about this. Heather said, I am leaving. No matter what I have to do to make you release me. All right. The man showed his teeth. Do not threaten us. I'll do anything to protect my village. The woman placed a hand on his shoulder, but spoke to Heather. Time moves differently here, and it will be dark over there soon. You should wait. If you keep me here, Heather said, you'll regret it. I need to make this lowercase because it's the same sentence. I'll become the threat you're trying to hide from. We do not take well to threats, Girl Knight, he said. Say, shaking off the woman's hand that had failed to calm him. I think hiding has made you soft. I think you avoid conflict, and you are not prepared to face me at my worst. The growing crowd exchanged looks that were easier to read as common fear. A number of them backed away. We cannot expose ourselves to threats, the man said. It is not our fault you stumbled into our pocket. You were seeking safety. Your soul cried out to us. We did not bring you here. Your own desire for safety opened the portal. I'll say open the way. I don't want to get real specific with whatever kind of magic this is. Heather lowered her sword a bit. No, I keep using that a lot. That's kind of my new thing, a bit. I use that all the time now. There's nothing wrong with it, but I can tell I'm overusing it. Heather lowered her sword by a few inches, but did not put it away. Can you send me back? I will tell no one of you. You probably won't survive another night over there to tell anyone, he said, but we have no fear of your story because you will not remember us once you are gone. The woman held up her hands. Please, just stay. Renew your energy, and you can move again in the light. You can face the dangers at full strength. If you insist on facing them at all. I don't want to be here. I don't trust any of you. Release me. I insist. The man lifted his fist, and Heather responded by pointing her sword at him. Let's make sure that's saved. He sneered and said, "You are the greatest danger to yourself." He snapped his fingers, and then she was gone. No, that's not right. Let's say, and then all of it was gone from her mind. Heather gasped and scrambled to her feet from where she leaned and apparently slept outside the ruined cabin in the blanket of long dead leaves. She remembered the place changing shape, the voices and the runes. She did not recall how she got out here, though. Got back out here, though. She turned in a full circle. Something told her she wasn't alone, but there was no one in sight. No one she could see, anyway. Heather realized her sword was out and still in her hands. The sun was already setting. How was that possible? She didn't feel the least bit rested. Howls and unnatural rumblings rose from the direction, need to fix that, of the dark forest before the light was even gone. Heather made her way to the road again. She afforded one glance down the deserted path from which she had come the night before. Another to the cursed cabin that marked where an entire village had somehow vanished from the kingdom, and then turned away to flee once more. Before she took to heel, she felt something in her pockets. Fresh food, berries, bread that was still warm, vegetables and meat with steam rising off of them wrapped in leaves. And stuffed into her pockets with all this mysterious food were the petals of multicolored flowers. This was not the season for blooming, but the presence of magic food bothered her more than the leavings of flowers. It all smelled good. It was tempting, and her stomach growled out its emptiness. Still, she cast all that food and the petals onto the path behind her. She was nobody's fool. Heather got her weary feet moving as another night approached.